Welcome to the Kelley School's Impact in Indianapolis and Beyond webinar. We are so happy to have you join us today on this snowy Indiana day. My name is Amber Richards, and I'm the Alumni and Parent Engagement Specialist. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few housekeeping items to ensure the webinar goes as smoothly as possible. We will be keeping everyone on mute, and we thank you for your cooperation with this. However, we will use the chat function. So if you have any messages like questions or tech issues, please feel free to send us a message through there and send it to the panelists. If you have questions for Associate Dean Powell during the webinar, which we highly encourage, please add those in the Q&A function. We can't promise that we'll get to all of them, but again, we will keep an eye on that and make sure that we get as many answered as we can, time permitting. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Phil Powell. He is the Associate Dean of Academic Programs and a Clinical Associate Professor of Business Economics and Public Policy at IU Kelley School of Business in Indianapolis. He previously served as Faculty Chair of the full-time and online MBA programs at Indiana University in Bloomington. Both programs saw an increase in national rankings under Powell's leadership. He's also been instrumental in the launch of the MD MBA dual degree program with the IU School of Medicine. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you, Amber. Great to be a part of your lunch hour, or if you're in the Eastern time zone. But anyway, always great to connect with our alumni community. Over 110,000 living Kelley alums. As you've heard us brag, one of the largest, if not the largest, business school alumni communities in the world. So I was asked today, by the way, Dean Kestner sends her greetings, but I was asked today to sort of give an update on the Kelley School's impact in Central Indiana. And, the Kelley School, world-class business school, we've got a global footprint, a national footprint, and very much a state and local footprint. And strategically, we lead that state and local imprint, and especially regional in Central Indiana from the IUPUI campus. One of the great things, I've been in this job as Associate Dean since 2016. Before that, I was Chair of Kelley Direct, and I would spend about a fifth of the year abroad with our students and with our other partners. And it was great to go from sort of global to now hyper-local in what the Kelley School can do. But again, it's an honor and privilege to share some time with you today. I'm going to speak from more of a philosophical and strategic perspective of how we serve the Kelley School mission in the Indianapolis region. But what we're doing here, I think, has translational value in every place of the world that the Kelley School has impact. And this is shaped and formed by both what's happening in higher education, but also by what our opportunities are in a post-COVID world. So without further ado, let me share my screen here. And again, this isn't gonna be your typical presentation of list of programs and enrollments and rankings. While it's great to see us grow, we have been growing during the pandemic. This is actually, our income statements on both campuses are actually looking really, really good, much better than we expected. And while it's great to be on the high rankings and pat ourselves on the shoulder, if we're gonna live up to our brand, we've got to stand and deliver in an environment that is asking us to deliver more, to be held accountable in a much stronger way. So I'm going to provide some thoughts on that, and just a little background on Indianapolis. And I was an administrator. I've been at the Kelley School for 25 years. I started at IUPUI. Dean Dan Smith in 2008 asked me to come to Bloomington in administrative role. And I was there until I came back in 2016. Definitely our Bloomington location is our mothership. It's headquarters, and a lot of great stuff in Bloomington. Some of you may not know about our programs in Indianapolis. We've been in Indianapolis for over 50 years now on the IUPUI campus. And we have an undergrad program. We have the 9th ranked part-time MBA program in the nation, part of our portfolio of MBA programs in the school. We also are the only top 20 business school with a physician-only MBA. We also have a graduate certificate in medical management, an MD MBA program where medical students stay in school an extra year before they go to residency. We also have a graduate accounting program. So we have a nice portfolio in Indianapolis that allows us to be sort of nimble and innovative. One of the most innovative products that's come out of the Kelley School in the last 20 years has been the online MBA. The Kelley School, as you may know, was the first top 20 business school to go online. That was in 1999. Everybody was telling us, you can't learn online. You're going to dilute the Kelley brand. Well, lo and behold, 20 years later, here we are, number one in the country, with the top ranked online MBA program in the nation. So we have as you've heard from Dean Kestner, we have a very strong tradition of innovation at the Kelley School. As you may remember from your classes at the Kelley School, we teach you to be first to market with new ideas. The best way to beat your competitors is not with a low price or a better advertising campaign. It's with a better product that makes their products obsolete. And so what's always made me proud of being a leader at the Kelley School is I've always considered ourselves first among business schools in being able to take an idea and deploy it to market in terms of our speed. I can, as a dean, as an associate dean, as a faculty member, I can be very innovative, be very entrepreneurial, and our ecosystem supports that. And I think that's one of the reasons that we are who we are as a world-class business school. You may not know this, but Kelley Direct was started on the Indianapolis campus. Dan Dalton at the time gave Rich Majuka at the time, who's actually running our part-time MBA program, $500,000 and said, go to Indianapolis, start an online MBA program, and don't attract too much attention. And that's exactly how you start a disruptive product in an organization. You don't do it at headquarters because your incumbents, those who are managing your incumbent products, will feel threatened. Well, about 2006, Kelley Direct had gotten to a critical mass, and it came back to headquarters. It came to Bloomington, and that's where we've run it ever since. So we really have always used Indianapolis as a place, as sort of a skunk works, as a place to do stuff that maybe we couldn't do in Bloomington. We can innovate and really sort of define the what's next in terms of Kelley School's ability to disrupt its market, to change the national conversation on how a world-class business school delivers a world-class business education. We're blessed by our two locations. We're on one of the most beautiful college campuses in the world in Bloomington. I always considered it an honor and a privilege to walk around campus and just see the students at work, and especially in March and April to see the flowers bloom. We're also blessed by an urban campus. We're right in the heart of Indianapolis, really a city that's known for a great place to do business. We've been last year we're the second fastest growing tech hub in the country. So very dynamic place, and we're right downtown. The students can walk outside of the Kelley School, see the big buildings, and see where, at least before COVID, their future employer is just down the street. And so, if we're going to be true to our mission as a business school, we have to practice what we teach. And again, it comes back to innovation. And as you learned in your days at the Kelley School, successful organizations have a very strong strategic identity. What makes them unique? What differentiates them relative to others? And that starts with your mission statement. So if you were to go to our mission statement on the website for the Kelley School, you would basically see this my paraphrased version of our mission. And that is to positively transform the knowledge, the people, the organizations, and the communities that we touch. And, another way to say that is, I think what makes the Kelley School unique is that Kelley's roll up our sleeves. We jump into the organization. We're great citizens within organizations. We're very positive. We rally and inspire those around us to fix the problems. We get down to business. Kelleys are known for having a lot of confidence, but not a lot of ego. And, it was this sort of, one of the great things that Dean Kestner did in 2013, her first year in the dean's office, was to sit back and to have a reflective exercise on what makes the Kelley School special, what differentiates the Kelley School. And it's exactly what I said. And the team came up with the tagline, "Moments to Momentum." But behind that is a statement of our identity as Kelleys. And you've heard this before, and I think it's just when I heard it, it's like finally words that, we finally have words to describe what I knew we were. I just never had the words. And that is, members of the Kelley School family have a talent to succeed, the humility to grow, again, that absence of ego. And especially during COVID times, this is turning out to be a real asset for us, the tenacity to persevere. And so as we move forward in a post-COVID world as a school, and as we have really since 2016 rediscovered and redefined what our strategic purpose is on the IUPUI campus and our service to Central Indiana, especially the Indianapolis region, we have really stuck true to this statement of identity and this mission statement. And I want to reflect on what that is in today's webinar, but also reflect upon the kind of impact that we're having. I don't want to, again, usually when you join a session with a dean, we like to talk about the how and the what, the enrollment figures, the growth, the rankings. Again, not going to reflect on that today. I want to reflect on the why. Why does the Kelley School do what it does every day? And especially under this mission statement on the IUPUI campus in service to the Indianapolis region. Now, we not only need to rise to the opportunities in front of us and the expectations in front of us in a post-COVID world, but we also are in an industry. We compete and we function and we operate and we're funded within an industry for which a lot of sectors of American society have a lot of skepticism in higher education. Now, I will be the first to say, and I hope you will too, that the Kelley School is an exception to the rule. But still, we're part of higher ed and we're subject to the same scrutiny. And, during the Trump, we had, if you look politically, both leaders in the Democrat Party and leaders in the Republican Party for several years now have been criticizing higher ed. And when there's a political consensus like that, you better be on your toes. And you better tell yourself that if you're in this industry, you got to change the game. And again, this is where our innovative culture comes into play. We can help the rest of the country. We can show the rest of the country how higher education can be functional. I think we're already doing that. That is our track record. But if you think about it, heavy tuition, heavy debt loads, and after you've assumed that debt and paid the heavy tuition, then when somebody walks across the graduation stage, do they really have the work skills to make them productive members of the workforce and to get the salary that rewards that? And again, a lot of skepticism about whether higher education is delivering what it used to deliver 25 years ago, a whole generation ago. You can see here on the side of the slide, I've got a couple of just visual data points that reinforce the skepticism and criticism that higher education has been facing. You can see in that first graph, sort of the inflation in tuition and just how much it compares to the just general inflation, going back to 1978. And basically tuition has increased for a generation now at 2 or 3 times the rate of inflation. In how many industries are you able to increase your price at 2 or 3 times the rate of inflation? If you're doing that, you better make sure that your value's going up. But there's lots of articles out there going, is a bachelor's degree still worth it? And then if you're a parent or if you're a non-traditional student and you do go back to school, and you're doing so to invest in, as economists would say, invest in your human capital so you can get a great career, the debt loads can be punishing, especially if you come from the lower quartile of the income distribution. Check out the green bar there. The folks who need higher education the most, coming from first generation families, perhaps at the lower end of the income distribution, these families, relative to their income, are carrying huge debt loads relative to what they make. And are we, as an industry, are we making that investment successful for these first generation students? And that's a very relevant question especially for the Kelley School and the IUPUI campus. The IUPUI campus sees a double the share of first-generation students that we see on the Bloomington campus. And so if the Kelley School doesn't stay on its game, if we don't live up to that mission statement that we talked about, if we don't stay ahead of the market in terms of our value proposition, we're gonna have some reckoning to face. And so not only do we have great opportunities as a great school, but we have a high level of accountability that we need to meet. And we are meeting that. We just need to make sure that we continue to meet that and not take anything for granted in the value that we deliver in our programs. And so we've got the opportunity on the IUPUI campus to maybe experiment with some new thoughts, new ideas of how the school does that, especially in an environment like Indianapolis that's an urban environment. It's not a college town. Indianapolis is the 14th largest city in the country, very diverse, and it's a great laboratory to test some new ideas on how a business school integrates with its community and delivers a world-class business education. So bottom line, we must continuously innovate. We must continuously improve. And by doing that, we must continuously raise the value we bring to students, companies, and our community. That's not just in Indianapolis, but also to our partners in Bloomington, in Southern Indiana, and Greater Monroe County. And so what we've done is, again, in 2016, I was part of some changes that Dean Kessner was making to really redefine and establish a more dynamic presence in Indianapolis on the IUPUI campus. And so I like to say that what we've done is we've sort of gone, we've really, what you're going to see here is we want to be part of the dialogue in the community. We want to be a leader in helping to drive economic development in the region. We're a state university. We want access to a great education more attainable. Again, keep our standards the same, but how do we increase access to that great business education? So the way I describe it, and I think what we've been doing is we've sort of been replacing an ivory tower with a front porch. We want to be a front porch in Indianapolis. We want to convene the conversations that are helping to drive economic development, especially on the talent question. And by doing so, by becoming trusted and esteemed members of the community that stand shoulder to shoulder with leaders and institutions and organizations to meet the needs of the community, especially on the talent side, then we begin to truly immerse ourselves in the economy of the Indianapolis region. And we get back to our roots as an institution of higher education. At the end of the day, why do people go to college? People go to college to get a great career. And I think coming back to that reality, the Kelley School has always delivered on that, but sort of just reminding ourselves and sort of refreshing our thoughts on how we do that is a really good place to start. Because again, when we talk about higher ed has lost its way because it's taken its focus off the value that it delivers. And again, the Kelley School, I think, is a great North Star in reminding this industry of how it stays focused. Now, so what we've done in Indianapolis is we've leveraged this sort of strategic choice to be a leader and convener in the community, especially on the question of talent and business creation. We've also leveraged the fact that we are on Indiana University's medical campus. Indiana University has the largest medical school in the nation. Did you know that? It admits about 435 medical students each fall. That is the largest medical school class in the country. So sitting on the same campus is the Kelley School and the largest medical school in the nation, along with some other great assets on the IUPUI campus in the healthcare area, like the Regenstrief Institute, 5 different hospitals. And we've got a great school of public health, just a great school of nursing that's on both campuses. So you're going to see 2 threads here on how we positively transform the knowledge, the people, the organizations, and the communities that we touch. That is by helping to be a driver of economic development in the Indianapolis region, but also being being a first mover in how we educate clinical practitioners to go out and fix US healthcare. And we're starting to see some great momentum there. Let me dive down into what I've talked about. You know, I like to say that when we wake up in the morning, if we're delivering value for the Indianapolis region, for Indiana as a state, we graduate talent that fuels regional diversity, regional prosperity. Diversity is also an important asset that we want to bring to the community. And now this is true for the whole school, right? From Bloomington, we graduate talent that fuels global prosperity. We graduate talent that fuels national prosperity. On the Indianapolis campus, as you can see down here on our infographic, 89% of our undergraduates who walk across the commitment stage stay in the state of Indiana. So while some of our graduates also from the Indianapolis campus go to global and national jobs, truly our pipeline of talent into Indiana as a share of the students is huge coming from the IUPUI campus. So we're truly devoted to graduating talent that fuel regional prosperity. And we want to make sure that that talent is going into the industries that drive the regional economy. You know, what drives regional prosperity are those industries that are exporting goods and services to other regions. And in Indianapolis, we see a good diversity of that. We see supply chain and logistics, high tech, especially business to business marketing technologies. This is why Salesforce is downtown. Also, Genesis, another big business to business marketing technology firm in the country. Both of those companies, by the way, also have their other headquarters in San Francisco. And like I said earlier, Indianapolis is, at least last year or the year before, was the second fastest growing tech hub in the country. Relative, now again, it's starting from a small size, but that's pretty impressive. Also, other industries, healthcare. We rank among the top 10 cities in life sciences. So those are the three main. Also, real estate. We have a lot of commercial real estate firms headquartered in Indianapolis. So it's these industries that we especially like to see our students graduating into. And guess what? Not surprisingly, on both campuses, true to Kelley School form, in the middle of the pandemic, when unemployment rates were 14, 15%, both of our spring 2020 classes had placement 90 days after graduation on both campuses, high 90%. On the IUPUI campus, it was 96% of our May 2020 graduates had a job within 90 days. So we have talent that is in very high demand. And when everybody was forecasting a collapse in enrollments, our undergraduate enrollment is actually 5% higher on the IUPUI campus. And the Bloomington campus, it's a little higher also. So on the IUPUI campus, what we've done is we've implemented we're implementing a brand new career focused curriculum that allows internships, co-ops, micro internships, consulting projects year round. And this sort of work and learn approach allows us to leverage the fact that all the employers, for again, 90% of our students some of them are within walking distance. So what we want to do is we want to blur the line between classroom, city, and workplace. We've also launched a number of new graduate certificates that a student, if they stay enrolled, sort of that summer and that fall after they graduate, they can add a graduate credential to make themselves competitive. So at the end of the day, the Kelley schools really digging its roots and its foundation in the Indianapolis economy. We want to be this talent pipeline that helps to reverse talent shortages. Because here's an interesting statistic. In Indianapolis, and this is a statistic that's true for many metropolitan areas around the country, by 2030, at least in the Midwest, there's going to be 9-10% fewer high school graduates each year. Those are the main feeders into the job market. But the demand for skilled college graduates is going to increase 8%. And about a third of those skilled jobs that are of those new jobs are forecasted to be, if you have a business major, to qualify. So yeah, everybody's talking about a fall in high school graduates. They call it the cliff. It's because of the demographic and the fall in fertility among the millennials, or the early millennials and the late Gen Xers. But here's the good news. Even though the number of high school graduates is falling, even though the number of students who can come into school is falling, the demand for college graduates is going to go higher. So our product, our undergraduate product on both campuses, has increasing demand for it. So we just got to figure out how to make to be competitive, attract those skilled students, and also how do we make it more attractive for non-traditional students to come back to school. Over 800 in the state of Indiana, over 800,000 Hoosiers started college but never finished. And there's an opportunity for those folks who would want to come back to do business school. The Kelley School should be a home for those folks, because again, it's not just because we want to have great enrollments and see ourselves grow. At the end of the day, the Kelley School exists to feed the needs of the talent market. And especially if we're going to be great citizens of the state of Indiana, great citizens of the Indianapolis region, we need to step up and make sure that we have a wide enough pipeline and fill that pipeline so that we don't have those talent shortages that hold us back in the region. So first and foremost, it's about human capital. And our commitment to talent is big. And we have some other innovations that we're exploring there, including pipelines that extend back into the high schools that feed the IUPUI campus, including internships with some of our recruiters. So we graduate talent that fuels regional prosperity. Again, back to this being a driver of economic development in a world-class city like Indianapolis. When I talk about city, I'm talking about the region, not just Marion County. Also, as we've asked ourselves, how can the Kelley School be a contributor to economic development? And this is where being an economist helps. I sort of always ever digging into the data. The state of Indiana and Indianapolis rank high as a place to do business. Our tax rates are low, our affordability is high, regulatory environment is business friendly. The Midwestern culture, it's folks can fit into networks, social networks pretty easy. We're a great place to do business. That's one reason we're a fast-growing tech hub. Companies around the country recognize this. That's why, and also talent does too. We have a lot of folks moving in from the coasts, especially for the tech opportunities. But what holds us back is our economic mobility. If our economy was truly firing on all cylinders, we would also rank high in terms of economic mobility, about being able to maybe grow up in a household where you're the first generation college student, or you're the first to really graduate from high school with honors. You're the first to have access to maybe even a high school education, and then to be able to get a job that elevates your income level, that elevates your quality of life. Well, that's the classic American story of economic mobility, going from sort of the lowest quartile of income to the highest. But Indianapolis scores poorly there. We're only the 11th percentile. 89% of cities are better than us in terms of economic mobility. And that's the probability of being born into a poor household and being able to graduate to a rich household as you move into the labor market. Poor. And part of that is because we have relative to other cities, we have a very low level of small business creation, especially in our underrepresented communities. A recent survey showed that of the 40 largest metropolitan areas in the country, we were 37th in terms of new business creation. So if the Kelley School is truly going to not going to contribute to economic development, it's not just about graduating the talent that the region needs, it's also about positioning ourselves with other community partners to help reverse this deficit in small business creation, this deficit in entrepreneurship, especially in underrepresented and economically challenged communities in the region. And so, in addition to graduating talent that fuels regional prosperity, we want through our direct engagement with the community, we want to position small business owners for success in these underrepresented communities. And this is a newer part of our strategy. We've on both campuses, our bread and butter is to graduate talent. But just now are we moving into and answering the call that the state has given us to help with small business creation, especially in underrepresented communities. And so in partnership with the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce, we have just launched a set of programs called Enterprise Core. And in December, we launched an inaugural cohort where we matched 10 faculty allies with 10 small businesses. And the idea there was to help these businesses increase their operational cash flow, their access to credit, and to deepen their exposure to commercial networks in the region. And we're working with that cohort now. Also this summer, as part of our new, 2 years ago, we redesigned the evening MBA program. Again, the 9th ranked part-time MBA program in the nation, according to US News. And we told ourselves, you know what, let's position the MBA program to have the type of community impact that we want. And so as in their last quarter of the 8 quarters of their studies, our part-time MBA students are deployed on consulting teams that are then matched with small minority-owned businesses in the city. And they go through they use the McKinsey and Company consulting methodology to tackle a challenge or to tackle an opportunity that will allow these small businesses to, again, increase their operational cash flow and increase their access to capital. We're going to be launching that this summer. We're going to have 110 MBA students on about 24 teams helping 24 minority-owned businesses in Indianapolis. We're very excited. The Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce has been extremely supportive here. And this goes back to our work with the Indy Chamber during the pandemic, where our faculty members made themselves available to answer questions on how businesses survived the pandemic as part of the Rapid Response Hub. We answered questions. We were providing answers both in Spanish and English. And then we also you see a picture here of Kim and Todd Saxton, one of our dynamic faculty duos who are also married. They very much help entrepreneurial startups in Indianapolis. You see a picture here of we did a free webinar series on business recovery in the summer, helping businesses, helping entrepreneurs, helping business owners of all stripes in Indianapolis face the reality of recovery and survival in the pandemic. And this partnership with the Indianapolis Chamber has won some national acclaim. And Enterprise Core is the most recent evolution of this. But by the end of the year, through Enterprise Core, whether our faculty, our staff, and also opportunities for alums, our goal is to support at least 50 minority-owned businesses. By the summer, we will definitely have touched at least 30 or 36. So very exciting stuff here at work. Again, we're blurring the line between classroom, city, and workplace. And our part-time MBA students will end their 8 quarters, will end their Kelley MBA with the signature experience that will give them a story of how they helped an entrepreneur help that business enter economic takeoff. And that'll provide a great story to tell in a job interview. And by the way, we're doing the same thing in Indianapolis that we've done in Kelley Direct in the full-time MBA program abroad with our Glow-based program, where we take MBA students and they work with small businesses in economically challenged cities like Lima, Peru, Guatemala City, Johannesburg, South Africa, Accra, Ghana, New Delhi, India, Yangon, Myanmar. So it sort of occurred to me a couple of years ago, why don't we take what we do in the Kelley School in those great cities and let's do it in our own backyard. And we're very excited for this. And it's got a lot of legs. Again, what's the goal here? Yeah, it's great to have a great curriculum that involves MBA students in the community. But at the end of the day, we're doing this to increase economic mobility in Indianapolis. Economic mobility can be as strong a competitive differentiator for the region as talent. And a lot of that economic mobility comes through small business creation. Lastly, this is where from the IUPUI, we sort of switch gears from sort of a regional focus to a national focus. And that's a national focus on healthcare. And this is where we've really been able to leverage our partnerships with a lot of the health related schools in Indiana University, especially the IU School of Medicine. And in 2013, we launched our physician MBA program. Now, that's not to be confused with our MD MBA program. Did you know the following? Did you know when you count programs on both campuses, the Kelley School has nine different initiatives in healthcare. I think when the deans sit down, we see this as sort of the next big thing for the school. With regards to our MD MBA program is a program where medical students stay in school an extra year before they go to residency and they get their MBA, they get their Kelley MBA. They're phenomenally successful. We launched that program in about 2002. In 2013, that program was so successful that we launched a program for seasoned physicians. These are physicians that are at least 3 years out of residency. And it's a hybrid program where physicians fly in for 2 days each month, and they get a full Kelley MBA curriculum. It's a full octane Kelley MBA curriculum. It's the same thing I teach in that program, and I'm teaching the same material that I taught in the full-time MBA program in Bloomington. And this program attracts the zealots, the hardcore physicians that want everything, that want to go out there and change the system. Our physician MBA program is not just an MBA program, it's a movement. And we have zealots that graduate. We typically get 40 to 50 physicians a year. They're a pleasure to teach. But this is our opportunity, along with some of our other healthcare programs. The US healthcare system needs to be fixed. If there's an industry that needs good management education, good management knowledge, good lessons in executive leadership, it's healthcare. These are the two jaw-dropping statistics that I use. Did you know that 1 out of every 3 healthcare dollars, 33% of all healthcare dollars, generate no economic value? They generate no value for patients. It's a huge market failure. And then even worse is because of errors, many of which could be managed away with better management. Errors cause 275,000 deaths per year, accidental deaths per year in the healthcare system. That's based upon a recent article from the British Medical Journal. So a way that the Kelley School can save lives, we don't have to go to medical school. We don't have to go into the operating theater and learn about the human body. We can just teach good management to physicians. Because if you're a patient, don't you want physicians leading US healthcare change? Those that have gone to medical school? Because in medical school, you're taught to think about the patient first. So this is a very passionate topic for us at the school right now. And we equip clinical practitioners to fix US healthcare. It's through positive leadership and lessons about how to lead innovation. That's at the heart and core of what it means to get a business education. And we're not only educating physicians, but we're educating through our graduate certificate in medical management, through our MS in healthcare program on the Bloomington campus. We're also teaching, we have a Center for Business of Life Sciences Executive Certificate. For these programs, we're teaching those who are not physicians, but nurses, physician assistants, lab rats in pharmaceutical companies. We're teaching them how to help fix healthcare. We've got the whole healthcare value chain covered. And this is really our opportunity, our next opportunity for leadership and innovation in business education is in the healthcare area. And again, we're the only top 20 business school with a physician-only MBA program. And that's sitting on the IUPUI campus. And to me, it very much mirrors what we were saying in the early 2000s, when we were the only top 20 business school with an online MBA program. At that point in time, it was a startup program located in Indianapolis. So at the end of the day, folks, it's not about our rankings, our enrollment levels, the courses that we teach. It's about why we wake up and come to work in the morning. And again, the answer for the school is our mission statement. We positively transform the knowledge, the people, the organizations, and the communities that we touch. And it's that mission that inspires our more specific focus from Indianapolis. And at the end of the day, why do we wake up in the morning? And I remind our faculty and our staff of this all the time. We want to deliver emotionally and financially. We want good paychecks, but more importantly, we want our graduates to have emotionally rewarding careers. It's not just about that first job after graduation, it's about that second, third, and fourth, and making sure your career trajectory is aligned with your personal passion, and making it convenient that alignment also contributes to the regional economy through working or adding value in the industries that export goods and services to other regions. And again, by delivering that talent holds Indianapolis back, along with low economic mobility. That's going to drive the regional economy. We're also, with a focus on small business creation. Also, we've shifted our philanthropic focus. Sorry for my Tennessee accent. We've focused our development and our fundraising on the IUPUI campus, especially to scholarships and programs that make the Kelley School more accessible to underrepresented students, and also give them the support they need to graduate. These are the two ways that we're helping to contribute to economic mobility, diversity, equity, inclusion in the Indianapolis region. And that's our regional focus, but also just as exciting is our healthcare mission. Our faculty are teaching physicians and other clinical practitioners how to fix U.S. healthcare. And if you go to our website for the Physician MBA program or our Graduate Certificate in Medical Management, and you read about the impact these graduates are having immediately after they get their MBA or their graduate certificate, it's phenomenal. These physicians who get their MBA quickly find themselves in the executive suite, implementing change that is generating tens or not hundreds of millions of dollars worth of value. So that's, when we back to the question at hand, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. But in higher ed, we've got to get back to the value that we generate. We've got to replace the ivory tower with a front porch. We have to immerse ourselves in the communities. We've got to meet the students where they are, get back to basics. That really, going to college is about human capital that is not only contributes to regional economic development, but it contributes to the emotional and financial health of our graduates. And we're doing that with our program innovations on the IUPUI campus that blur the line between classroom, city, and workplace, that leverage our gift of being on an urban campus. And then we're taking that bigger mission and we're doubling down on healthcare, which is the industry that needs the most, as we say in Tennessee, that needs the most fixing. So hopefully this gives you a sense of where we're headed on the Indianapolis campus. Again, part of the larger Kelley School. And this isn't just exclusively Indianapolis. There's our Bloomington programs also touch some of these efforts. So we're truly one school on two locations. And that's the way I think, and I've been blessed to be an administrator on both campuses. So I'm going to hand it back to Amber here to maybe we'll entertain some questions, and I'll stop the share on the screen here. Would love to answer any questions or entertain any comments that you have. Amber.
Yay, back. Okay, so we had a comment come in that said that this is so smart and that they really appreciate how you chose to tell the story. It's inspiring to see how the evening MBA program is evolving to help meet Indy's challenges with a focus on economic opportunity and social mobility and an eye toward lifting up MBAs. The national focus on systemic healthcare reform is exciting overall. Very cool. Question, where do you see Kelley in 5 years?
So I think what we're going to find is, so there's the Kelley School writ large. I'll speak to where I see us on the Indianapolis campus, and that is that we're going to have an undergraduate program that is it's where the undergraduates are seamlessly integrated with their work. Right now, 70% of our students work, but they are not able to find the types of internships that they need. We have companies wanting them to be in those internships. So imagine our students come to campus as freshmen and going to work, going to your internship, year round is just as normal as going to class. Sort of the seamlessness between work and learning in the classroom. So we're going to be there. We're going to have a lot more online and hybrid courses in the undergraduate program. Again, that allows for the convenience of a work and learn integration for the undergraduate students. I think our part-time MBA program will continue to be one of the premier part-time MBA programs in the country. That's where I cut my teeth in terms of my teaching. Most of those graduates stay in Indianapolis and they become the executive leaders. I see that program continuing to generate the executive leadership, but they will have had a deep immersion in helping small businesses get to where they need to be as part of their curriculum with this capstone experiences that we're just launching this year. And that's going to differentiate the school even more. I think in 5 years, we will have doubled the number of physicians that are out there that have a Kelley MBA and are leading healthcare change. I would imagine us to have a center for physician executive leadership. Our program will be much larger. Instead of one cohort of 40 to 50 each year, I can see us having two, perhaps. I'm kind of dreaming here, but we've got a lot of momentum. And the Kelley School will be known, just like it's known, it was able to build its national reputation on its contribution to online education. We're going to build our reputation on how we contribute to the change in U.S. healthcare, especially one that puts the patient first and is business focused. So I see us continuing in the directions that we've talked about, but you'll see more mature, larger programs that have the national recognition that we will gain over the next 5 years, which will reinforce the Kelley School's reputation for innovation.
And I just want to remind anybody that's on here still to please, if you have a question, to submit it in the Q&A. I don't want to miss anybody if they have a comment or question. Second question, you may have already touched on this a bit, but what are some of the strategies you're hoping to implement to continue to recruit high school students in Indiana?
Sure. So, one of the idea we have is to be a pipeline, right? That it's not the Kelley School pipeline. It's that the Kelley School is a stop on that pipeline, right? So when you think about developing talent for a region, the regional economic needs, you have to start in middle school. So in fact, our career services office on the IUPUI campus is actually start to work with high schools, with their guidance counselors. And our recruiters want to start to not only put Kelley students in internships, but they want to put high school students in internships because they want those development of those job skills and those professional skills to start in 9th grade. And so you have to get middle school students thinking about what they're going to be when they grow up. That's one of the most important inputs into somebody being able to lift themselves from being born into the lowest income quartile and being able to work their way to the highest income quartile in the country. Economic mobility. Economic mobility begins with the ability of middle school students to have some concept of where they can go in life. And one of the best ways to do that is to work with the high schools, not only to sell the great Kelley School experience, but to connect our recruiters, who are companies that drive the regional economy, with that talent. And some of those students may choose to go to Butler or Purdue or UCLA, but at least we're part of that conversation. And we're building that pipeline where not only is the Kelley School a great stop on that pipeline, but the Kelley School is also a national convener. And we leverage our talent and our presence to build pipelines, parts of that pipeline that started in middle school, but they may not even go through IUPUI, but that may not even go through the Kelley School. Because it's important that we be, in order to achieve this, to build these talent pipelines, we have to be something larger than ourselves. We have to work with other colleges and universities and not have this old school approach where, we don't work together. When our communities and when the State House and when businesses see universities working together, when they see Indiana University working with school systems, it starts to change the way people think about higher ed. And this is another way that we can help be a national example for how higher education can be functional instead of dysfunctional. So a passionate answer, Amber. that we take the talent pipelines we're building with the career services office and we extend them back into the classroom, into the high school.
Thank you. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on work remote and the potential for improved economic conditions in Indianapolis, given its low cost environment?
I am very bullish. So, as a school, this concept of liberation from location, which I call it, has been on our mind for at least a decade. And I truly embraced it when I was faculty chair of Kelley Direct from 2012 to 2016. So, we have a lot of land, and we have a fast-growing tech hub, which is a great industry to have for the highest talented workforce. So for the region as a whole, this is a boom of an opportunity. And I think it's important that Kelley School makes sure that it's well positioned to serve the high tech sector in Indianapolis. We still have some work to do there. But also, I've talked about the downtown area. COVID-19 has scrambled the concept of real estate value, especially in commercial in downtown areas. Yes, we can walk out today and see those tall buildings, but those tall buildings are empty. So I think regionally, we're going to do well in attracting, for example, the refugees from the high cost areas on the coasts. But we're really, as a region, also going to need to make sure that it doesn't crater out the downtown area. And so this is where the Kelley School, again, can be part of the local conversation, especially with the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce. How do we economically ensure that these changes ensure a vibrant downtown? And there's ways, there are innovative urban economics and spatial planning and innovative thinking. Give us ideas on how to do that. We can contribute to that part of the conversation, which can be as valuable as the talent that we graduate.
Let's see. One final question that popped up is, how can Indy area alums contribute?
Great question. So, Amber, and this will be a call out. We'll give you a follow up somehow, or you can email me at phpowell@indiana.edu. Go to the dean's website or dean's site, and you can see my email address. So, Enterprise Core, we want to scale that up long term. And one of the reasons we launched Enterprise Core is because we wanted some way to deploy the talent, the gift of time and talent from our alums. These small businesses that we're supporting need your expertise. But before we plug that in, we wanted to build the infrastructure. And this is why faculty are working with us to figure out how we can take those alums that raise their hand and say, Phil, I want to help. I want to help with these small businesses, how we can direct that talent in an efficient way. Good intentions are not enough. We got to have infrastructure and planning. And if an alumni raises their hand and wants to contribute a few hours a month, to direct it in an efficient way so that it's both value added for the client and value added for our alum. So we've done a couple of call outs already. We've got a few alums sort of in a database that are ready to be, as I say, ready to be deployed to help as we scale up. So if the Enterprise Core idea or program intrigues you, it's a way that you could plug in and use your expertise. Now, it might be that you sort of are on standby until we need a business that we can align with you. But we're now building a database and inventory of those alums that can help out. And those alums don't have to be in Indianapolis. You can be in California, Korea, or New Delhi, or Brazil. So that's one thing COVID has taught us. Again, liberation from location. So we're going to be encouraging alums more and providing more opportunity to contribute to Enterprise Core. Enterprise Core, at the end of the day, is a community initiative. It's not a Kelley School initiative. We want to broaden our ability to scale. We're not going to move the needle on small business creation and economic mobility in the city if we're only touching 50 cities or 50 businesses a year. We need to impact hundreds, if not thousands, of business in this region. the Kelley School should be doing that, and we're going to do it. So we're going to have to call on our 20,000 plus alums that live in the Indianapolis region and those all across the globe to help us out. So if you're interested in that, you can email me directly, or I'll work with Amber to make sure that we have a follow-up communication from our alumni team.
Wonderful. Thank you, Phil. And thank you everybody for joining us today. A recording of this will be made available, and I will send an email out letting you all know how to access it. We are planning more webinars in the future with a Kelley IUPUI focus. So please keep your eye out for new emails and for social media prompts. That is everything. Thank you guys so much and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Go IU.